The year is 1162, and on the windswept steppes of Mongolia, a boy is born clutching a blood clot in his fist. The shamans say this is an omen that he will become a great warrior. His name is Temujin, and he will become Genghis Khan, the man who will conquer more territory than Alexander, Caesar, and Napoleon combined. But his beginning is anything but glorious. When Temujin is 9 years old, his father Yasuge is poisoned by rival Tatars at a feast, leaving his family destitute and abandoned by their own clan. His mother Holin keeps her children alive by foraging for wild fruits and catching fish with her bare hands, living in constant fear of starvation and attack. Young Temujin kills his own half-brother over a dispute about food, showing the ruthlessness that will later define his conquest of the world. As a teenager, he's captured by the Taichiud clan and forced to wear a wooden collar like an animal. But he escapes during a celebration when his captors are drunk, hiding in a river, and receiving help from a sympathetic family who risks everything to free him. These early years of poverty, betrayal, and survival forged Temujin into something unprecedented on the Mongolian steppes, a leader who values loyalty above bloodline and merit above aristocratic birth. He begins to gather followers, not through inheritance or tribal affiliation, but through a revolutionary idea that anyone, regardless of their clan or status, can rise through competence and dedication. His first major alliance comes through marriage to Borte, a girl he was betrothed to before his father's death, and her family's support gives him crucial resources and legitimacy. But Borte is soon kidnapped by the Merkits in revenge for Yasuge's earlier theft of Temujin's mother, and Temujin makes a decision that reveals his strategic genius. He allies with Togrul, his father's old blood brother, and with Jamuka, his own childhood friend, combining their forces to rescue his wife. The successful raid not only returns Borte, but demonstrates Temujin's ability to build coalitions and command respect from more powerful leaders. Over the next 2 decades, Temujin methodically absorbs tribe after tribe through a combination of military victory, strategic marriage alliances, and an innovative approach to governance that terrifies his enemies and inspires fanatical loyalty in his followers. Unlike traditional steppe leaders who ruled through family lineage, Temujin promotes generals based purely on ability, including former enemies who impressed him with their courage or skill, creating a meritocracy that makes his army more effective than any tribal confederation in history. He breaks apart the old clan system entirely, reorganizing Mongolian society into military units of tens, hundreds, thousands, and 10,000s, ensuring that loyalty flows to him personally rather than to tribal chiefs who might challenge his authority. When his childhood friend Jamuka becomes his rival and raises an army against him, Temujin defeats him. But the struggle reveals something crucial about his character. He executes the men who betrayed Jamuka to join him, declaring that anyone who betrays their leader cannot be trusted even when that betrayal benefits Temujin himself. In 1206, after defeating or absorbing every rival on the Mongolian plateau, representatives from all the tribes gather at a great assembly called a Kurultai on the banks of the Onon River, and there they proclaim Temujin as Genghis Khan, universal ruler, leader of all Mongols. He is 44 years old, and he has spent his entire adult life preparing for this moment, transforming a fractured collection of warring nomads into a unified nation with a common identity, a standardized legal code called the Yasa, and most importantly, the most formidable military machine the world has ever seen. The Mongol military system is built on a simple reality. Every Mongol man is a soldier, trained from childhood to ride horses and shoot composite bows with devastating accuracy while galloping at full speed. Each warrior maintains a string of 4 or 5 horses, allowing Mongol armies to cover up to 100 miles per day. A speed that seems impossible to their enemies, who are accustomed to infantry armies that lumber along at 15 or 20 miles per day at best. The Mongol composite bow, made from layers of hornwood and sinew, can shoot arrows over 300 yards and punch through armor at closer ranges. And Mongol children learn to shoot from horseback before they can barely walk, making archery as natural as breathing. Unlike European knights, who see warfare as individual combat and personal glory, or Chinese armies that rely on massed infantry formations, the Mongols fight as coordinated units executing complex maneuvers with devastating precision, using signal flags, torches, and mounted messengers to communicate across vast battlefields. Their standard tactic is the feigned retreat, where Mongol forces appear to break and flee in panic, drawing overconfident enemies into pursuing them across miles of terrain until the pursuers are exhausted, spread out, and vulnerable, at which point the Mongols wheel around and annihilate them with arrow volleys and charges from fresh reserves hidden on the flanks. At the Battle of Kalka River in 1223, 80,000 Russian and Kipchak warriors chase what they think is a defeated Mongol force for 9 days across the steppes, only to be surrounded and systematically destroyed by Mongol units that had been positioned days in advance, with only 1 in 10 warriors surviving to tell the tale of the disaster. The Mongols also master psychological warfare in ways that make them seem like demons to their victims. They spare cities that surrender immediately and completely, but utterly annihilate any settlement that resists, killing every man, woman, and child, sometimes building pyramids from the skulls to terrify the next city in their path. They employ spies, merchants, and travelers to gather detailed intelligence before launching campaigns, knowing the political situations, economic resources, and military capabilities of their enemies better than the enemies know themselves. When attacking walled cities, the Mongols drive captured civilians in front of their assault forces, forcing defenders to either slaughter their own people or watch helplessly as human shields allow the Mongols to approach the walls, a tactic so ruthless that many cities surrender rather than face such a choice. They adopt and improve every military technology they encounter: Chinese siege engines, Persian engineering, European metalworking, creating a military that combines the mobility of steppe cavalry with the technological sophistication of the world as most advanced civilizations. Genghis Khan himself is a military genius who understands that superior numbers mean nothing without superior logistics and communication. So he establishes the YAM system, a network of relay stations across his empire where messengers can change horses and send information across thousands of miles in days instead of months. The decimal organization of the Mongol army means that orders flow smoothly from the Khan to 10,000-man tumans, down to 1,000-man units, then 100-man companies, and finally to 10-man squads, ensuring that every warrior knows his role and can execute complex battle plans without confusion. Mongol armies operate completely independently of supply lines, living off the land and off their herds of horses, which they can bleed for nourishment without killing, meaning they can campaign year-round in conditions that would starve conventional armies. This mobility and self-sufficiency means the Mongols can appear anywhere, anytime, attacking from unexpected directions and vanishing before enemies can muster effective responses, creating an aura of supernatural invincibility that breaks enemy morale before the fighting even begins. With Mongolia unified under his rule, Genghis Khan turns his attention to the wealthy civilizations that surround his homeland, beginning with the Tangut Kingdom of Western Xia and the Jurchen Jin dynasty that controls northern China. The campaign against Jin China demonstrates the Mongol capacity for adaptation, facing fortified cities they cannot easily overcome with cavalry charges. They recruit Chinese and Persian engineers who teach them siege warfare, building massive trebuchets, catapults, and siege towers that can breach walls previously thought impregnable. The city of Zhengdu, modern-day Beijing, holds out for a year, but when it finally falls in 1215, the Mongols spend a month looting it so thoroughly that, according to one witness, the streets are greasy with human fat, and the ground is covered with bones for miles around. By 1227, when Genghis Khan dies during the campaign against Western Xia, his empire already stretches from the Pacific Ocean to the Caspian Sea, but his sons and grandsons will expand it even further, following his directive to conquer the entire world. His son Ogedei becomes Great Khan and continues the assault on China, eventually conquering the Jin dynasty completely and incorporating millions of Chinese subjects into the Mongol Empire, along with their administrators, engineers, and artisans, who will prove crucial to governing such vast territories. Meanwhile, a Mongol general named Subutai, perhaps the greatest military commander in history, leads armies westward into Russia and Eastern Europe with a speed and coordination that seems miraculous to his victims. In 1237, Subutai invades Kievan Rus with 150,000 warriors, destroying city after city through the brutal Russian winter. A season when medieval armies typically cease campaigning entirely, but the Mongols use frozen rivers as highways for their cavalry, turning winter into an ally rather than an obstacle. The city of Ryazan refuses to surrender and is wiped from existence so completely that it's never rebuilt in its original location, while Kiev, the greatest city of Russia, is reduced to a smoking ruin with barely 200 houses left standing among thousands. After subjugating Russia, Subutai doesn't stop but continues into Poland and Hungary in 1241, defeating European knights in a series of battles that shock Christendom to its core. At Liegnitz in Poland, a combined force of Polish, German, and Teutonic knights charges the Mongol army only to be surrounded and annihilated, with the Mongols cutting off an ear from each corpse to count the dead filling 9 large bags with ears from this single battle. Days later in Hungary, at the Battle of Mohi, Subutai orchestrates one of history's most perfectly executed military operations, using a feigned retreat and river crossing to position his forces around a massive Hungarian army of 65,000 men, then destroying it so completely that nearly the entire army is killed while Mongol losses are minimal. All of Europe panics certain that the Mongol horde will sweep across Germany, France, and Italy, and indeed, Mongol scouts are detected within 60 miles of Vienna. But then messengers arrive from Mongolia with news that Ogedei Khan has died, and Subutai withdraws all forces to participate in selecting the next great Khan, accidentally saving Western Europe from conquest. Meanwhile, in the south, Genghis Khan's grandson, Hulagu, leads another massive army into Persia. and the Middle East, conquering the sophisticated Islamic civilizations with the same brutal efficiency his grandfather showed in China. The Assassins, a feared order of religious killers who terrorized the Muslim world from their mountain fortresses for over a century, are completely annihilated with every castle taken and the Grand Master executed. Then in 1258, Hulagu arrives at Baghdad, the greatest city in the Islamic world, capital of the Abbasid Caliphate, center of learning and culture that has stood for 5 centuries. The Caliph, surrounded by luxury and convinced of his own divine protection, refuses to surrender, so the Mongols breach the walls and spend a week systematically destroying the city. Scholars estimate between 200,000 and 1 million people are killed. The House of Wisdom, with its priceless collection of books and manuscripts, is thrown into the Tigris River until the water runs black with ink, and the Caliph himself is wrapped in carpets and trampled to death by horses, according to legend, because Mongol superstition forbids spilling royal blood directly on the ground. The destruction of Baghdad is so complete that Iraq does not recover its pre-Mongol population levels for 7 centuries, and many historians mark this as the effective end of the Islamic Golden Age. By 1260, the Mongol Empire reaches its maximum extent, stretching from Korea to Poland, from Siberia to Vietnam, covering over 16% of the world's land area. The largest contiguous land empire in human history, more than twice the size of the Roman Empire at its peak.